This week's episode of our show is sponsored by the Tome of Summoning and their latest Kickstarter project.
They've created the Deck of Encounters and the Deck of Loot, new accessories that you can use at your game table. The Deck of Encounters includes cards with different environments on them and a D20 roll to determine what encounters you might find in that environment.
All their cards are available in both print and PDF, so you can either use them virtually or print out your own copies or get their high-quality decks that they're creating for the Kickstarter project.
They also have these wonderful loot cards that apply to multiple different monsters. And my favorite thing about the loot cards is that if you happen to roll a 1 while looting a monster, you actually have something bad happen to you. For example, if you roll a 1 looting a goblin, you actually get a rabid infection that is going to affect you. So be careful looting the dead creatures that you're trying to collect treasures from, because they might get you even after death.
These are also really great to use with a GM screen because all of their cards are designed to fold over your screen, so you can have the art of the creature facing the players and all the game statistics on your side of the screen as well. All these decks together make for great reference tools to keep handy at your table, so they're worth checking out by following the links down below.
And now, onto this week's episode.
Greetings, my name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. Welcome to our channel where we cover everything D&D, including advice for players and guides for GMs.
We upload new videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Let's rock out, because everybody's playing a bard in today's episode.
Bards are one of our favorite classes in D&D, and so today we're going to look at what happens if everybody picks a bard. Now, a few rules for this video is that we are looking at a group dynamic of 4 characters. Everybody is choosing the same class, but nobody is allowed to be the same subclass. So we're going to have to pick which 4 subclasses we're going to have in our party. We're not allowing any multiclassing. They are just going to be straight up bards, and they need to work in all pillars of play as best as they can from levels 1 to 20. And we're going to analyze how well they perform in all pillars of play and how well this party might fare at the table.
Kelly and I are going to share our loadouts, discuss their strengths and weaknesses, how we might organize the key strategies for the party, and then give it an overall ranking of how we think the all-bard party squares up against the other classes in our overall leaderboard.
There's a lot to discuss today, so let's get rolling.
I feel like I buried the lead here, but this party absolutely rocks.
They do rock, both literally and metaphorically.
And so I think that the core pillar of the all-bard party is deciding what instrument everybody is. Who's the guitar, who's the bass, who's the drums, and who's on vocals.
Of course, you could be a more oddball band and have like a synth player and somebody on tambourines and 3 vocals, and you could be an a cappella group as well. The sky is the limit. But
maybe you're circus performers?
Yeah. So
everybody's an acrobat?
That is also the thing, is you don't have to be musicians. Bards are just artists. So perhaps a traveling circus is a brilliant idea.
You could be a traveling theater troupe, and all of you could be inspired by the very classic Commedia dell'arte troupe, and one of you could be the Harlequin. Well, another one of you is El Doctore, and someone else is the Braggart, and someone else is the soldier. Like, it could be really interesting, all the different layers of inspiration. You could even model your adventuring party off of William Shakespeare's theater troupe and really get so focused on being an arts company, an arts collective. Maybe you're all painters or sculptors or visual artists. There's a lot of really creative ways that you could go with the all-bard party, not just on the musical theme, even though that stands out.
In our monk videos, we often talk about everybody playing a turtle and being Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael. But here, you could actually be those 4, but as the Renaissance versions, like the painters, the Leonardo and the inventor. So you could actually take those personalities. Or you could do something a little bit more abstract, and somebody is basing their character on Van Gogh, and somebody is basing their character on Picasso, and you bring these art personalities.
Yeah, to life. You could be like, and someone else could be like Frida Kahlo. Or you could make the fundamental decision, are you the Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Uh-oh. Either way, I think right off the bat, this is so much fun to think of the party dynamic.
On top of that, you could have a rival band. The scope for artistic rivals and having a rival adventuring party that is also all bards is amazing off the bat. And I start to feel like this is immediately a campaign that starts to write itself.
Yeah, I think that even if I was a DM and my players all came up and said, we want to play all bards, whatever idea I had, I'm just like, all right, we're doing the all bard campaign. Yeah. And I feel like there's so many concepts there.
There's so many other places that you could go to for inspiration on this before we even get into the mechanics. One of my favorite ones is Interstellar 555 by Daft Punk. That could be the basis for a campaign. You could pull on Gem and the Holograms for your campaign ideas.
Josie and the Pussycats, even Spice World, I
yes.
think. But then there's also there's one of my favorite movies of all time / comic book series is Scott Pilgrim. And I just feel like you're a young band trying to make it in the world.
Totally. And for me, the archetype, I've quoted this many times in the show, but rock and rule is the archetype in my mind for the all bard campaign, literally singing songs to save the world or summon demons. It's a perfect example of the young up and coming band versus the old kind of crazy aged rock star archetype. And so the idea of having the villain of your campaign being a rival band or an aged over the hill rock star trying to still cling on to their relevance, or going a little bit darker with it.
I mean, you could be Tenacious D and the devil has come to the world and you need to write the song to send the devil back.
Totally. What if all of you signed a deal with the devil? What if all of you are bound? That would be really cool too if you were multi-classing with warlocks and stuff like that. But even then, you could be against the devil, or you could be trying to fight against your record label, who is actually run by a group of vampires.
The ideas are just phenomenal here, and I as usual, I'm excited to play any of these. But then the question, as we move into the actual mechanics, is now we need to build our band. We need to get the band together. So we get 4 subclasses to pick. I think that basically every bard subclass is awesome, but in the idea of wanting to build a well-rounded party, you and I had some discussions on what we thought our 4-person band would be. 3 of our decisions were unanimous between us, and then we kind of discussed different opinions on the 4th.
So, first of all, on drums, we have the Swords Bard.
The Swords Bard loves to hit things. They're going to be our frontliner. They're definitely the drummer because they just exchanged their swords for sticks.
They could take shield proficiency and have a symbol.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, wield a mace instead of a sword, but you could jostle that.
So on drums we have the Swords Bard. I think our lead guitarists do a lot of the songwriting.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go with the Lore Bard.
Okay. I can buy that. I think that they might have to have a wide range of skills as well. Maybe they're also the individual that can play a couple different instruments too. I think also another killer cornerstone, because they're going to bring in the low-level magical secrets. They're going to bring in a lot of extra skills. The Swords Bard is giving our frontliner weapon user. They're going to have a really good armor class. So I think that that's a good counterbalance to it. The Lore Bard is also going to bring us Counterspell and Fireball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As all good guitarists do.
Yeah, totally. You got to have the face-melting solo that blows people away, and you got to be able to win the guitar duel with Counterspell.
Now, I think that the lead singer needs to be the most charismatic of all of the members of the band, and I think we got to go with the Eloquence Bard.
Completely agreed. And if you're talking about a party of bards, everyone is capable of having the charisma to operate as the face of the party. But the Eloquence Bard takes it to the next level.
And that's why they're the lead singer. Now, I feel weird not putting a Glamour Bard in here, but I feel like we're all I mean,
David Bowie really struck it out on his own.
Yeah, he doesn't need the band. The Glamour Bard is the solo artist.
Yeah, totally. And Yeah, the Glamour Bard is definitely this. They're too big for the band. They aren't willing to be the tame player because it's all about them, right? And especially we still need a bass player.
We do need a bass player. And being a bass player myself, the bass players are the broody ones, the emo ones. They're the quiet ones.
Yeah.
At least I was when I was a bass player. And it's funny. I remember walking into a music shop the one time, and the guy at the music shop looked up, and I was with my band at the time, and he's like, "You guys are a band," and he's just like, "You're the singer, you're the guitarist, you're the drummer, and you're the bass player." And we were like, "Wow, we obviously gave off vibes."
Yeah.
So there is vibes. So who is our bass player? And
I
this
had
is
two
where
candidates.
we went back.
Yeah,
Before
yeah, we differ on this. Okay, I think the baseline is providing guidance for the entire band. It's the thing that keeps everybody together. It's that, along with the drums, it's like that's the beat. You know what Bard subclass gives you guidance and is also creepy and emo? College of Spirits.
Also, really, the bass is the spirit of the song, isn't it?
Totally, yeah. I think College of Spirits on bass.
Now, my first thought was to go Whispers Bard because Whispers gave us a different candidate. Also, they're the emo kid in the group,
Yeah.
but they gave us a different play style that felt unique from the other three that we've looked at. But then I think both of us, our second choice, our other choice for this was the Creation Bard.
Yeah, that would be a really cool option to throw into the party mix as well. Give you a couple different options, especially for... maybe it doesn't fit as well for the bass player, but I think that it's a really interesting subclass that is doing different things that could bring other unique assets to an all bard party in particular, being able to actual conjure up objects and have that kind of zaniness to it. But overall, swords, lore, and eloquence feel like the must-haves. I really like either Spirit or Whispers as the bass player. I feel like as well, a lot of bands do go through a couple different band members. They have to find the right match. Sometimes there are guest artists. Sometimes you do a collaboration. So we could expand the party a little bit here.
I think that bards are freeing enough that really any combination of four that you want, this is just our choice. If you come up and say, hey, I want to add a glamour bard or a valor bard or any of the other subclasses available, I think that you're fine here. Bards are just very well-rounded, so I think you're good to go.
Yeah. Speaking of that well-roundedness, let's look at what this party is going to do in combat, social interaction, and exploration scenarios. How are they going to function? What are their strategies and tactics going to be in each pillar of play? Kicking things off with combat. We've got a party of spellcasters, but they've all got a D8 hit die, and charisma and dexterity is usually the secondary stat, so we can have decent armor classes around the board. But I do think that this is a party that is going to be very reliant on spellcasting in combat for almost everything they do.
Now, luckily, bards are notoriously good at battlefield control, charm effects. They can really debilitate their enemies. So I think that we have a major strength and a major weakness that kind of counter each other. The major strength is that most enemies aren't going to get a chance to do much because they are going to be held or stunned or incapacitated or charmed or vicious mockeried all day long by everybody.
Yeah, actually, they can just go into combat hurling insults, and the enemy is always going to be attacking them with disadvantage.
Yeah, which is great. And so I think that, the bards are going to make it very difficult for enemies to actually hurt them. But the negative side, and I think this is one of the only weaknesses that an all-bard party actually has, I don't think that we have the best damage output. We're relying on our swords bard for majority of the damage output, which isn't the greatest damage output in the game. So I think that you're going to want to be incapacitating your enemies because you're going to be picking away at their hit points.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where, especially with only one lore bard, who I think your picks are definitely going to be Counterspell and Fireball for your 6th level magical secrets. The rest of the bards aren't getting their magical secrets till level 10. So there's going to be a very long period where you're going to be reliant on the bard spell list for covering all your bases. And while bards do have damage dealing options, they've got spells like Thunderwave and Shatter and eventually Synaptic Static. There's not a lot of direct damage dealing options, and usually the direct damage dealing options they have on their spell list don't deal the most damage. So this is very much a party that is going to be debuffing the enemy, controlling the enemy, and then very slowly chipping away at them. And maybe this party might even just incapacitate their foes, tie them up, and leave them Scooby-Doo style.
I mean, this could be a party that negates combat encounters rather than completes them.
Yeah.
It does mean that major villains might be following them for a while or hunting them down.
Yeah.
But that might be the case. They might be more at home in a campaign that is less combat and more exploration and social aspects.
Again, I don't think that they're going to do a bad job in combat at all. It's very hard to combat against a bunch of bards that are all dropping Hypnotic Pattern and Slow, and Polymorph is on the bard spell list. So if they needed to, they could all just turn into T-Rexes and fight back. They all have Dimension Door. They all have invisibility. So it's not that there aren't options there, but if the party's in a situation where the most important thing to do right now is 100 points of damage, which comes up, this party might actually struggle to do that in all cases. I think that a lot of a bunch of the big things that make bards powerful damage dealers often rely on the bard being able to multi-class a little bit to really kick it up an extra notch. And with that off the table within the constraints of our thought experiment, that might not be something that we can pull off. Again, it's not a huge weakness, but it is a weakness there.
On the opposite side of that, though, they do have all of the healing options that you could need to keep your party alive. So they might be slowly picking away at the enemies, but they're controlling the battlefield and they're not very likely to die. With a party of bards, everybody can pack Healing Word and everybody can pack Revivify, and therefore if anybody does go down, a quick Healing Word can get them back up. And if there's a situation where for some reason you can't get the Healing Word out until the end of combat, you can Revivify your fallen teammates. So with that on the table, they're a pretty robust party, all things considered. And I think that they're going to fare actually quite well at combat, even though I'd say that's their biggest weakness. Because as we move on to exploration, they're not going to be the druid or the ranger in terms of exploration, but they have a lot of tools at their disposal for infiltration, information gathering, and just, being able to kind of weasel their way into any situation or out of any situation.
Well, if we're looking at exploration, I think it's worth pointing out there are 18 skills in D&D 5th edition. This party will get to select expertise 8 times at level 3, and then another 8 expertises at level 10.
Through the whole party.
So this means that you basically pick 2 skills. I would probably pick medicine and animal handling if it were me. And those 2 skills, you don't have at least one person in the party with expertise in. And I do actually think that there's an argument to be made that this party probably doesn't need expertise in athletics. I think everyone in the party might want proficiency in stealth, but they might not need expertise in it because they have so many ways to give themselves advantage. It's also worth noting that there's bardic inspiration everywhere in this party. So everyone's going to be able to inspire each other, giving themselves that extra die to roll on top of the Spirits Bard providing guidance. So this party is going to be able to buff its skill checks so high that they're never going to fail skill checks, and it's not going to matter what kind of skill challenge or exploration scenario they're in. They're going to ace all the skills, and that's even before the spellcasting really gets fully considered as a factor.
I do think that an important point that you just made is that when this party is coming together, it's going to be important to diversify what your specialties are. The bard is, of course, the jack of all trades, and all of them have jack of all trades, which means that they're going to be good at almost every skill in the game, no matter what. But choosing your expertise is going to be a very important factor. And I love the idea that one of the bards is very persuasive one of them lies all the time, and one of them is really intimidating.
Yeah.
And so I already imagine that the eloquence is persuasive. The whispers in my party might be the liar. And then the swords bard is the intimidating one.
Yeah. And I think that that's another really important point of if you're actually playing this party, does everybody need to take expertise in deception and persuasion? Probably not. It's probably better as a party for you to spread those skills out and make sure that, yeah, someone has expertise in perception and someone has expertise in insight. Maybe as the lore bard, you're going to want to have your expertises in things like arcana, history, nature, and religion, so that you're providing the intelligence-based skills somewhere in that party. Maybe someone will want to make sure that, yes, I'm the one that's going to take expertise in sleight of hand. You will also want to make sure that there's someone in the party that has proficiency with thieves' tools or other basic tools, so that you can interface with the environment in those mundane ways, because then you're going to be able to pull things like your bardic inspiration or casting enhance ability on each other to give yourselves advantage, using charm person, using all your other spells to just kick it up a notch when you need it.
So I do think that when we look at exploration, a lot of exploration is skill challenges, scouting and infiltration and things of that nature. And I think between the spell casting and the skill proficiencies and the bardic inspiration and all of that, I think this party is going to be just fine exploring.
Totally. And then when it comes to social interaction, we kind of touched on it, but like,
I don't think we need to say anything here. Like, you're a party of bards. Social encounters are going to, you barely need to worry about them. You have an eloquence bard in your party, meaning that they're going to be the face of the party in a party of all faces of the party. If for some reason the eloquence bard needs help, they've got it in by the boatload.
Yeah, I just don't see how this group has any problem with social interaction encounters. And the cool thing I think actually with it is that it's one of the few all character parties where everybody is good at something. And it's interesting the way that you talked about, maybe one person is the persuader, one person is the deceiver, one person's the intimidator, one person has the insight expertise. You could have someone else whose sole job in social interactions is to be the one that casts detect thoughts or covers for the others when they're casting suggestion.
Knowing your role in social situations is actually, I think, really fun with a bard group. Instead of everybody trying to pile in and complete the social encounter, knowing which one of you is the good cop and which one's the bad cop, which one's the liar, which one's the mind reader, everybody having those very specific roles means that you almost get to like heist your social encounter. It's like who's on what job for this social encounter.
And while we don't have multi-classing, I think this is another area where taking feats like Magic Initiate, Fey Touched, Shadow Touched, as well as perhaps Ritual Caster, or feats like Eldritch Adept, as well as Metamagic Adept, can give the party some really interesting extra options. On the damage dealing front, maybe everyone gets Eldritch Blast by taking Spell Sniper or Magic Initiate. Maybe someone in the party gets Subtle Spell in there by taking Metamagic Adept, so that you have that as an option. Maybe you want someone else that can cast Guidance or another first level Cleric or Druid spell like Bless, which would be a really great boon for this party as well. That's where you get Magic Initiate in there as well. So you can use these feats to give your party a couple extra options in all of the scenarios to make the group as a whole even more robust and well-rounded. And I think that that's the trick. Having someone with Spell Sniper for Eldritch Blast, having someone that does have, and they get Hex through another means, that's going to give you a little bit more of those specializations that are going to cover some of the weaknesses and give you even more strength.
When we come to the unique strategies and tricks that you can do with an all bard party, we've touched on a lot of them already. I mean, between your magical secrets, which is going to allow you to fill a lot of gaps, you get a lot of magical secrets in this party, especially with the lore bard, which gives you 2 extras. Also, we've talked about the fact that your skills are going to be off the charts. Bardic inspiration, you're a very inspiring group of people. Everybody's lifting each other up.
Yeah,
You're
and
constantly,
encouraging one another. Those bardic inspiration dice are just going to be circling around the table on every roll.
I think there's there's a good chance that everybody at the table has bardic inspiration whenever they need it.
Pretty much, and I think that everyone's just going to make sure that they have their own color-coded set of dice, so that you know which is the bardic inspiration dice that are mine I haven't used yet, and which are the bardic inspiration dice that someone else gave to me.
Yeah, so bardic inspiration off the charts here, which really means that we're kind of, as a bard party, pumping up a lot of our dice rolls.
Yeah, and that's where I think the bringing in guidance somewhere, either through College of Spirits or Magic Initiate, and bringing in Bless, again, through Magic Initiate or another feat, those are going to give you those things that are really going to enhance all your other rolls. And so when you're rolling a skill check with expertise and adding a D4 on top of that, plus potentially the bardic inspiration die, and giving yourself advantage with enhanced ability. So the strategy here is that you have one bard that is actually making the skill check. They're the one that has expertise in the skill that you're doing and a good ability score for that. You have another character cast Enhance Ability on them, which Enhance Ability was added to the bard spell list in Tasha's, so they have advantage on the check. And then you have a third character cast Guidance on them, and then the other bard is giving bardic inspiration to them. So the entire party's contributing to the skill check, and you're buffing it up all the way so that you're getting a D4, advantage, and the bardic inspiration die on top of expertise.
Which, yeah, that's gonna go a long way.
Yeah, you're gonna be constantly nailing those DC 20, 25. Probably even at low levels, you could hit a DC 30 if you had to.
It's also really fun to think, bands spend a lot of time together. And yeah, we hear a lot of stories about infighting amongst bands, but also you know each other so well that I feel like this is such a collaborative party.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, I'm going to try to pick this lock, and everybody's standing around being like, you can do it.
You can do it. Don't forget to jiggle the lock. Yeah, or something like that. It's so good. The teamwork is very palpable here, and it's backed up by the mechanics of the game, which is super cool.
I think that as we come to the weaknesses of the party, we've also touched on these a lot, but I think our biggest weakness is our front line. We do have the Swords Bard, and the Swords Bard is not a bad frontliner, but they're also not a great frontliner.
Especially when multiclassing isn't on the table. The Bard party, where our thought experiment restriction of no multiclassing is the biggest thing that holds them back. Because if this party could have one character, if the Swords Bard could take one level of Warlock, if one of the other bards could take one level of Cleric, especially Life Domain Cleric, and Hexblade Warlock, those two things would just strengthen this party so much.
I think also, if we're being very specific, the fact that we talked about the low damage output of this party. So I do think that with us focusing on battlefield control and charm, there are a lot of monsters in D&D that are immune to charm.
Yeah.
And also, because our damage output is low, I imagine that they're going to have a real hard time with something like a vampire who, first of all, doesn't care about you trying to charm them much and is regenerating every turn.
Yeah, and things like constructs or undead could be a big problem for this group. They're going to be, as long as they're interfacing with other humans and other humanoid creatures, they're going to be able to manipulate them totally. But I think this is an interesting counterbalance where the vampiric cabal of record label executives can really manipulate and control this bard group. We also have talked about how I think their saving throws are pretty bad.
Yeah. But they do get the bardic inspiration to help.
They do get that to help them, and that will do it. But I think that this actually could be a party that is very susceptible to getting mind controlled themselves or getting manipulated themselves. Strength saving throws are probably going to be pretty bad across the board, and they're going to have to take feats like Resilient Constitution to support their concentration. So I do think that this is a party where the right feat selection can plug the holes, but low hit points, low damage output, maybe not great AC, maybe not great saving throws. If you really look at it on paper, these can be addressed. They can support each other. And also, once they run out of spell slots, what do you got at that point?
I mean, hopefully there's enough of them that they won't need to run out. They can still Vicious Mockery.
They still can, but I really feel like, once the group gets is out of gas, it really brings them down. And you know what? I think the other like biggest weakness just of any band is like hubris and the effect of fame. Like, what will it be like for this band to be constantly in the limelight, constantly facing the pressure and criticism of their rivals, of their naysayers, of the haters? What will that do to their mental health when they release when they get a sponsored ad and people call them out for it, or when one of them posts something objectionable on social media? Will they get canceled? Will they get brought down? What are the types of things that could affect the reputation of this group?
The effects that social media have on mental health are the downfall of the All Bard Party.
That creative life. What about all the other risks? What about the temptations of vice? What about the relationship? What about the new collaboration? What about all those things like substances lurking in dark corners? The ugly underbelly of all the afflictions that affect bards, of all the things that bring down our artists. Will they even survive, or will they become members of the 27 Club?
No. The All Bard Party might not even get started because they don't know what to name the band, and the argument that persists from that could tear them apart, and then they go their separate ways and all become solo artists that never really make it in their careers. I think that we've touched a lot on a lot of the great concepts that exist for this party, but I do think that like having the battle of the bands against your rivals, the traveling circus group is amazing, or the traveling acting group is incredible. I think that all of those paint a vivid picture of the types of campaigns that we could have with an all-bard party.
How does this party, conceptually, I love it.
Yeah.
Conceptually, it is S tier, but all of these conceptually have been S tier. How does the all-bard party compare to wizards, paladins, and clerics so far?
So although bards are, in my opinion, one of the most well-rounded classes in D&D, I actually do think there's some pretty standout weaknesses in one spiky part of playing D&D, which I would like to give them an S, but I feel like they're an A.
I'm really torn over this. I feel like they deserve to be S tier. It's interesting how the bard, for me, in comparing them to the cleric, the paladin, and the wizard, I feel like they kind of, if you put the clerics, the paladins, and the wizards on a triangle, the bards kind of pull towards the center of the three different ones that we've looked at so far. And so they have some of the weaknesses of the wizard party that they share, but then they have the strengths of the cleric party and some of the strengths of the paladin party as well. So there's some interesting trade-offs, but I definitely think that I would agree with you if you think that they're S tier.
I could be persuaded of that.
And
easily.
I feel like feats and multiclassing probably turn the bard party up into the S tier very solidly, but that also does it to the paladin party.
I also think that the Bard Party is my top contender for thematic choice for an all single class party. I think that above all the others, the Bards, just the amount of collaborative arts that we have in this world and the way that a bard could tell that story is really beautiful.
I also do think that the bards can do a lot of the shenanigans that high level wizards can do. With magical secrets, they can really start pulling in some of those crazy things with simulacrums and demiplanes and wishes. So that's on the table for this party. So I think that in light of that, the high-level bard party is probably S tier.
Yeah, I feel like we're like, so far we've done a lot of S tier options, but I think we're also starting with a lot of our favorites.
Yes.
So that I am willing to give the Bard an S tier because the Bard is tied for my favorite class in the whole game.
Totally. And I have trouble saying that I think that the Bard party has as many strengths behind it as the All Wizard party. And I have trouble, when I look at them together, I have trouble saying that why is the wizard S tier and the bard not S tier?
Fair. So we're giving them an S tier. Tell us what your thoughts on the all-bard party is, and also if you've ever played an all-bard party, or what your all-bard party's band name would be. Tell us about all of those options and more in the comments below.
The videos that we create on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the work that we do here on YouTube, please consider becoming a patron of the channel by following the links right down below.
And if you want to check out our actual play in the Worlds of Drakkenheim, you can check us out on Tuesday evenings on Twitch, or you can find all the previous episodes right up over here.
And we've got plenty more videos in the Single Class Party series right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time
in the dungeon.